Well, welcome, Jaguars. This is Gabe Barrientos here from the May Center. I'm really excited that you're joining us for this pop-up series. The series again is for you. We wanted to provide, you know, field experts and allow them to, kind of expand and elaborate in the work they do and just kind of provide some information and resources for you. Today I'm really happy to be joined by Leah McIntyre. She is a local, so from San Antonio, but also she's definitely in the field of psychology, and her practice, counseling practice, and she has a lot of gifts and talents, and Leah, I'll let you take it from here, and just kind of if you don't mind, just kind of expanding on kind of what you do and the types of counseling and practice that you offer.
Well, hi, everyone. I'm Leah McIntyre. I'm a licensed professional counselor and nationally certified counselor. I've been working in the field since grad school. I graduated from Baylor University, Sick and Bears. I've known Gabe and Alicia Barrientos for a very long time. We went to undergrad together at Baylor. So thank you so much for having me today and your team. But I actually started at Baylor University, and I was pre-med and decided to go into more of the soft science psychology, majored in psychology with a minor in child and family studies, and graduated from Baylor University May of 2005. And then I transferred. There were several different programs that I looked at, dual programs, and then landed at UTSA, their master's program, and completed that in December of 2007. So I worked full-time in the behavioral health field during the day, and then participated in UTSA's full-time night master's program, and finished in the 2 years and one additional semester just due to a class not being available. So it did push me off of the whole 2-year track in just two years and one semester extra. But I did complete that. And then, like I mentioned, I've worked in the field. I've worked for the Center for Healthcare Services. They're working with Bexar County as a whole, going out with 911, working with SAPD and our Bexar County officers to respond to crisis counseling situations. And then have worked at several of the facilities, the hospitals here within San Antonio, as well as having a private practice, a solo private practice, and small minority business owner myself for over 10 plus years, where I do licensed professional counseling. I also serve our military community as well, and family and child and adolescent counseling. And have been doing that, like I mentioned, for over 10 years, and I do that in a part-time capacity. So, yes, thank you.
Well, you keep yourself busy, of course. What I wanted to kind of touch on really first off would just be, what are some just general challenges that you face in your field, just general challenges that you face within your practice, your counseling, the work that you do?
Well, that's a great question. And I think that there could be several things. I think it just depends on where you're at. I can speak for myself personally, as someone who was not a trust fund baby, or born into a lucrative environment. I did, like I mentioned, even with the program that I chose a grad school that allowed me to be able to work full-time during the day, and then also provided that full-time school opportunity in the evening. So kind of more of maybe a non-traditional track. But I had to work. And I've continually still had to work. Thankfully, I'm doing very well in my 30s at this point, and just kind of dabbling in a lot of different opportunities. But starting out, it can be difficult. And a lot of times, in school, when we're in school, we're kind of pushed in like, well, it's your passion. And yes, your passion is important. And my passion is and was still there and is currently there, but pay backs a lot of that. And I do believe that there's a cyclical component with the pay and the passion, that if you can't pay your bills, you can have a passion, but still feel really pressured or frustrated or anxious because you're not able to fulfill kind of the daily activities that are required just to live in our society. So I think just learning to navigate that, and while still doing what I love, but also kind of making it work for me. And in the beginning, I had several contract opportunities in addition to the one job. You may hear in counseling and the behavioral health field, sometimes you'll have a couple different opportunities. And I've still kind of kept that work ethic, and it's served me well. I've gotten a lot of experience in a lot of different areas across San Antonio, Bexar County, and even outside of Bexar County. Just being able to be flexible and workable while still maintaining, bills and a standard of living that is comfortable for myself. In just kind of, doing what I love, but also being able to enjoy when I'm not working too.
No, definitely. And I think you hit on a good point. I mean, especially, you know, it's kind of that, the early stages of what, our students call adulting. You enter college, it's that time to grow and develop, but also too, as you move on from that, a lot of students either, typically go into the workforce, or, some will maybe go and continue on their education and graduate studies at some point. So, but it's a critical stage, and I think a person like explaining it, definitely letting our students know, like, there are things, and you may have to grind it out a little bit or do some things, to kind of whatever, like you mentioned, the place and comfort level at which you want to live at. So thank you for hitting on that. It's a good point, to our students, like, you know everybody's different, everybody's situation is different, but just kind of knowing that, that's definitely one of the challenges, of course.
Yes, I will add one more thing too. For those of you, I do know finals are upon you, but also kind of those that are graduating, don't be afraid to ask the questions of, if you're going into a new behavioral health role, ask the questions when you're in the interview with human resources. Will you pay for my renewal dues? Will you pay for supervision? Those types of things. In our field, it's the little things. The pay is sometimes hit or miss, and there is kind of a cap on what we can do, even in the private practice role. But as someone who's worked for a lot of good companies in San Antonio, those were some of the questions that I learned to ask when I would kind of go into different companies. Do you cover my dues every 2 years for my renewal? Do you pay for my supervision, right out of college? And those types of things will add value, because it's the little things you'll learn, even like what holidays a company offers, because we work so much. And if you work in a crisis capacity, like I have in several of my roles as a crisis counselor, what holidays are we required to work? Because, counselors, we're not always in traditional 8 to 5 Monday through Friday roles. Counselors are required to work kind of the holidays when everybody gets off, a little bit like the retail industry and food service. So just educating yourself on those types of questions, because I guarantee you, after you get into the job and that fire is burning strong, you will get kind of tired and you will need a break. And if you're having to work all the different holidays and then pump out extra money to pay for your own dues and enrollments and in related field activities, that it does start to get expensive. And a lot of companies do pay for your trainings, they pay for extra credentialing, but you just have to ask. And sometimes it's not that they're withholding, they just don't think about, it's just sometimes it's implied or assumed. And sometimes, you won't find out unless you ask, because they won't really know if you're interested in those areas or not. And furthering your education, I always ask about, if for myself, if I want to work on my PhD at some point, what do you reimburse for academic, post-secondary education, those types of things, just to think about.
Definitely another good, great tips, and definitely, like you said, professional development. You never, good employers want their employees to grow and develop, and fulfill, the goals that they have in mind. So even just like you said, just simply asking, whether they're aware of it or not, is, you never know if you don't ask. So, great tip there. Kind of hitting on, start hitting on some of the good things. What are some of those joys that you get out from your job, Leo? Like, you meet with clients and you're busy, but you have, you're also, what are some of those good moments?
That's a great question. And I think that reinforces the passion. It's that drive that's there. And having those clients that do, return back or have successful completion of care after the loss of a spouse or a loved one. And then they're able to go through the stages of grief and work with me. And I'm able to help them help themselves. And then they're actually able to see their progress throughout maybe a month or 6 months or a year of services, and then to be able to I call it kind of leaving the nest and going on their way and trying to implement the tools that they've been given in their kind of behavioral health tool belt, and then practicing them on their own, and then seeing, maybe I get a call a year later or 2 years later and they're like, hey, I've had things are going great, but I've had something that's come up, can I schedule something with you? And just being able to see that relationship and that therapeutic rapport is so important, because if it's built, and established, then your clients will come back to you. So I used to think, when I would hear counselors say, oh, I've seen my clients for years, I was like, ooh, what kind of counselor is that? You're enabling. But for me, I say that, and now I specify, I've had a lot of my clients for several years and several gaps where I haven't seen them because they've been doing life on their own and maintaining, and then they'll come back for occasional maintenance type counseling. And even clients that I've met and built rapport with in certain companies that have just looked me up years later and I had no idea. And they're like, hey, I saw you at such and such facility, and I followed you, or I've looked you up online and you're still working in the counseling industry. Can I come see you? And it's just those types of things just kind of reinforce what I do, because it is making that difference. And sometimes it can sound cheesy, but if you're passionate and comfortable and happy with what you're doing, then it will spill over to your clients and your patients, and they won't forget you. They won't forget that, because customer service, these days is very different, and it can be lacking in certain things. But I always say my job is like a customer service industry. If you're not happy with the services, then you're not going to return back. And in our field, we want our clients to come back, because that's where our longevity is. So.
Yeah, I mean, I would say especially, during this time, I know, I can imagine that your services are definitely are needed, and you know, during this year pandemic, and everything else that's kind of compounded onto that. Kind of speaking of the pandemic, how has it affected, what your work, and your clients, and them returning to you, but also which the types of counseling that you've had to use during this time.
Okay, and that's a great question. It varies depending on kind of the age of the client or the situation or circumstance, but I will speak for kind of like with children. I think children that initially, and students of all ages, elementary to high school, that there may not, at least in my experience, there hasn't always been an appreciation for school. At least when I was growing up, it was a huge deal. I loved school. College was not even a question. And children these days, it's very different. The verbiage that I hear from them about, well, if my teacher doesn't respect me, then I'm not going to give respect. And just the way that our society has kind of changed over time, and just the outlook of our students for the future. And I think that at this point with COVID, a lot of children and students that are now having to do, whether it's, full, virtual learning, or that hybrid learning, or now kind of being allowed to go back to school, there is a new appreciation. And I've always been kind of interested since it started. I think it would be neat to kind of see the correlation of, had we gotten that information of students before they had to go home, to where their appreciation level is now, because socially it is very different. I've had a lot of students that were a honor roll students, National Junior Honor Society, National Honor Society students, and their parents have reached out to me and they're like, my child is actually failing 3 of their 8 courses. And this is unheard of, because it is a lot of self-motivation. It takes self-regulation. And so I think that these are good tips because it also helps, in my opinion, prepare for post-secondary education and college. So if our students aren't enjoying school now and they're able to, take tests or do homework 10 times just to get a completion checkbox versus, college, it doesn't work like that, as most of you will know. And so I think it's changed the mindset. And then for those even that are healthy and well and maybe weren't, needing counseling, now socially, being kind of isolated in our homes, and whether you're married or single or whatever your circumstance may be, being in your home, whether it's alone or with somebody 24/7. And then if you add children to that or your pets, those type of stressors, have even caused healthy families or healthy individuals that live on their own to now kind of have like this a little bit of trepidation, like, now I'm going back out there, ooh, germs, ooh, social and socializing. I haven't had to do that except through a video screen. So I'm kind of seeing, trends where people that may not have normally they've functioned well are kind of coming in to get some social enlightenment again, as we're kind of almost stepping out of our houses and being able to kind of, join and socialize again after a year and a half of kind of being told stay away and stay in your house and cover up and all these different things that were healthy and socially acceptable. But now it's just getting people back out to their normal routines post COVID.
Is there a population that you see, I guess, with people who are, like you're saying, kind of stepping out and back into the world in a sense? Is there like a certain group or certain population that you see may face the most challenges with that?
Well, I do notice with families, the parents are definitely happy that their kiddos are going back to school. So I've noticed that's a positive trend. But like we saw the statistics, abuse with children, sexual abuse, and even domestic violence went up during this time. Statistically, it's been noted in several journals and studies. But I would say just kind of what I've noticed is maybe with our singles, like kind of getting back out there. The whole online dating thing, has kind of been out there, but it peaked during this time. But for those that are not of interest to doing that, it is kind of figuring out, well, where can I go? What's fully open? How can I socialize? And do I have to melt or sweat behind my mask? And, will I ever be able to show my full face and, interact, and just those different, and that's even before adding if people already had social anxiety or issues with kind of controlling, different symptoms or responses to social anxiety, like sweating or nervousness or clammy hands or nervous stomach. So just kind of, it's just about reintegrating and as a whole, not just for those of us that had diagnoses prior, but even those of us that haven't had a diagnosis, just kind of everyone, reintegrating into our society again and figuring out what the new normal is and how to function in that.
What tips do you have for people trying to, I guess, get back and socialize, safely, of course, and trying to get back? What are some tips that you might have for people?
Well, I think across the board, what I always like to go to is when we educate ourselves, I do think that helps as we walk into a certain environment. So you can do that. If you plan to go out and say, I'll use the Pearl. If you plan to go to the Pearl on a weekend, check the calendar at the Pearl and see what's going on, just so you'll kind of be in the know and educate yourself. Okay, they're having a farmer's market this weekend. That will mean there are going to be a lot more people out and about socializing. So, I can go prepared that, already knowing I'm going to be around, possibly a mass of people, because people are starting to get out and venture out. If when you're driving, looking at parking lots of restaurants, they're filling up. Traffic is starting to increase, and just being mindful of that. I think mindfulness in counseling and therapy is huge, because it just kind of, even doing our own mindful body scans, like what is going on with me today as I step out? How's the weather? How's my environment? Have I driven my car in several months, or, do I need to get a tune up? Those types of things that we take for granted, but they can affect, okay, my light went off. Well, what does that mean? I haven't driven in a while. Or just going into a social environment and there being a mass of people versus like a few shoppers at the grocery store. Now there's, it is filling up again. So just being prepared for the amount, I guess, the amount of people and socialization that may be possible versus when we used to could go out and there were no cars on 1604 at between 4 to 7, and it was, you could just get to wherever you needed to go with very quickly. It's kind of just re-educating ourselves and driving around and seeing what's open and looking online, and what's coming soon, and just kind of preparing ourselves socially, and environmentally, so that it will decrease the height of anxiety and social anxiety if it's there. And even kind of just that, that tendency to kind of want to shy away and be like, well, I'll just get it to go. Maybe you start with a restaurant that is a little smaller or quieter in general, and then you slowly kind of increase your encounters with other people just to ease yourself into it. And that's for anybody, even those of us that haven't had those social issues, but just kind of learning new social cues.
Yeah, because I mean, I know it's for people who are like, I can say like myself, who are, who've been, taking the precautions, and, a lot of us who've been safe and stayed at home, and, safe practices and stuff, people who return into work, whether it's, let's say, hybrid or full time, whatever that looks like. So it is a process, and, it's, you want to make sure that you're, trying to get yourself back with your whatever normal surroundings, whatever that is, office, home, outdoors, social life, whatever that is. So, um, what about, let's talk about a little more about, like, so I know, you have your practices and, counseling and everything. How does that look like for people who are trying to get into the field? So like the market and the future of, counseling, those who are interested in the field, and then of course with COVID that, that affected it. What does that look like? How's COVID affected the market and maybe, potentially the future of counseling?
Um, Well, I definitely think when there's drama, trauma, or pandemic, all of that keeps counselors in business, unfortunately. Because people, I mean, if anything, my practice has not slowed, and I do my practice part-time, but I could do it full-time because there is just that demand prior to the pandemic and even after. But I would say, it is nice, to be able to do the virtual counseling because it cuts down on overhead. But I will encourage, it's always checking if you're going to be paneled with insurances, because a lot of insurances are starting to kind of do away with the virtual Zoom sessions, and they're kind of expecting, there's that expectation that you will return to an office. So it's just kind of learning the ins and outs and the nuances of each individual insurance that you're paneled with, the EAPs. A lot of clients, I mean, I will say that it's kind of expanded my reach on its own naturally, because I'm able to see clients from all over. And I have a colleague and friend of mine who actually got connected with one of these online kind of counseling groups, and she's able to see clients all over the US depending on how they panel and the supervisor. So she has clients, she's in Texas and has clients that she sees in California. It just varies based on her availability. And so, I mean, I definitely think the reach, is larger, and it spans a lot more territory, but it's just kind of learning your preference. I mean, the Zoom can also, again, it is cost effective. But at the same time, there are a lot of people, and just even us in general, that we still need that physical. We need that breathing near each other, being able to convey empathy and be able to maybe touch a shoulder or hug a little kiddo after a play therapy session, and they grab on and say, thank you, this was fun, or I want to report that I made a good grade, and be able to high five. Those types of things are important versus kind of a virtual high five or playing tic-tac-toe on the whiteboard. And promoting conversation. So, it's just finding that balance that works for you, for sure. But it isn't slowing. And I don't anticipate that, the counseling programs will slow because, it's just with more issues, it brings more issues in our environment, brings more issues internally for people that have existing diagnoses, and then even new diagnoses that are coming out, or for people that have never had social issues or anxiety. And life is still going. People, the issues that were there prior to COVID, they've either gotten worse or gotten better during the pandemic, and it varies. So people are still in need of that supportive ear and those good therapeutic techniques and life skills.
So for you, I'm just curious, so what were you, before pandemic, were you doing any virtual appointments? Were you fully in person?
I was fully in person. Occasionally, if a client got stuck somewhere or was not able to make it in, say from out of Canyon Lake or something, I would do telephone or cell phone, but it wasn't Skype. I wasn't utilizing Skype or Zoom. And now, I can have a client that if, it's time effective for them, like, oh, I live in Canyon Lake, I got to pick my kiddos up from school, and then I can jump on a Zoom. That's easier for them than driving 45 minutes to my office and then 45 minutes and hitting traffic one or both times while they're coming. So I do think that it makes it highly accessible. For me, it's been great because I've worked in virtual management in the behavioral health field for many years. So I just added counseling, my practice, to that. And the fees are relatively low and HIPAA compliant, but it just, like I said, it varies. I do miss the face-to-face, and I do have some clients, even new prospective clients, that are calling in and they've been made aware you're able to start face-to-face. I am blessed that I was able to maintain and keep my physical private practice location through COVID. And so I still have it. It's been there and I've maintained it. I just haven't utilized it. But it's just really working, to your level of comfort. And so a lot of prospective clients, like I said, are now calling in and they're wanting that face-to-face. So it's just to your discretion. But I will be probably getting back into the office soon. Once, like Gabe mentioned, I support, the health and the mask and then COVID and protection. And so I'm kind of using the benchmark of once I get my second, COVID Moderna injection, then, I'll probably feel more comfortable going in and interfacing with clients, where my first question also isn't going to be, before I see you, have you had COVID? Just something, you want to still keep it, a customer service based environment and not, upset them starting out. So
Yeah.
There's a lot to think about.
So are you planning, you get back into the office, are you planning to keep the virtual option as well now since you've had time with it, or what's your take on that?
Yes, I do. And actually, the way I was kind of thinking of organizing my practice was, grouping all of my, my virtual clients on one day or across 1 or 2 days or whatnot, and then grouping my in vivo clients together on the same day. And then just kind of those would be my private practice days, virtual and in vivo, which is in person, and then just working at it from that angle.
Yeah, I think it's kind of, to me, I think, people are like, well, the virtual, I feel like it's going to be here to stay in some format. For
Agreed.
some people, they're going to, keep it fully on. Some, as we get more in, shift more into person, less virtual. But I think overall, I think in many industries and many fields, I think many are going to keep it in some format or
Yeah.
fashion. So I'm just curious to see you know, what you were doing, but also I feel like that maybe something similar across, other counselors across the board too, that maybe not had, much experience with, a Zoom or a virtual format prior to pandemic, and now have experienced it and kind of like yourself, enjoy it and able to, meet new prospective clients, others, and, be able to keep it and hopefully in some form or fashion moving forward from here. What about, just you in general, like, how, what are some things that you're looking for? We're just curious, what are you looking forward to as we move out of pandemic? Just curious to hear from you.
Um, like professionally
Yeah,
or
professionally, what are you looking forward
okay.
to?
Well, I think it'll be nice, like I mentioned earlier, to be able to kind of interface with some of my clients again, and be able to, the ones that I've seen, over a span of several years that just kind of come back for maintenance or life issues that come up. It'll be nice to see them in person versus, it, virtually. But also for new clients coming in, I think that, it is sad to see, like in my building, a lot of the offices are now empty. So it's kind of a ghost town. And I rent from it's like a 4-story building, and a lot of the spaces are gone, and they're not all behavioral health. I was one of 2 in the building, and the rest were businesses. So it is kind of, you see how it's impacted other industries and other fields, and it is disheartening, but I think there's a benefit to both, and even safety wise for some, I think that this also affords us the opportunity to work maybe with, a different type of clientele, for safety reasons where it might be safer. I mean, I am a solo minority business practice owner myself. And so I don't have a group of people in my office. So it's just me. And so if you think about it, for an intake, I'm taking that information, I'm doing that admin, I'm doing that scheduling. I just hear your voice. And so for the first time meeting you coming in, I don't know if you are an angel from heaven or a serial killer, So it's just, I think for a safety aspect, in if you work as a solo practitioner like myself, or even in a group practice, but there is a safety component to it too, where I am still able to see a wide range of clients, and from the comfort or safety of my home and my home office. I'm grateful to say I have a built-in home office, so that is nice as well for HIPAA and safety and compliance and ethics. But you know, it opens the doors for new opportunities. And so, but I do miss the physical interaction with clients. And I'll be looking forward to getting back to that as well. So I think there is a balance of both for me. I can comfortably say I like doing both. And we'll see how I feel after I start back in the in vivo setting here in probably the next couple of months or so.
That's awesome. And I know, I think a lot of people are, especially people, and the longer this pandemic has gone on, more people are itching to get back out there and
Yeah.
work, whether it's work or social, whatever it might be, and more people are itching to do something. So I think it's even got to the point where people who aren't as social are even to that point as well.
Yeah.
Um, my last question for you is, what about, for people who aspire to get into some sort of, counseling, aspire to get in your field, your work in your field,
Mhm.
what are just maybe a tip or two that you recommend, and or a resource or an association, what would you recommend for them?
Okay. Well, I definitely do your research, do the research online. There's so many things just at our fingertips virtually that are available to us. And I think that just being open, you have to be flexible in the behavioral health field. I will say, and Gabe knows this, as a longtime friend, he and his wife that I've been friends with for years, I work a lot and I like it. I can do that. I have the time, allowances to be able to do that. But if you don't want to do that, and say you have a spouse or you have a family, or whatever your circumstance may be, or maybe you're single and you don't want to work a lot, it's knowing the industry. So private practice didn't just happen for me overnight. And we think, oh, I'm just gonna like reach out and there's gonna be a plethora of nice offices to rent for low cost. That's not how it was. At the time you hear people talking about it, but then of course when it's maybe your time to go out and look for it, at least for me, I wasn't. I was finding kind of the higher pricing. And so, it's thinking about the cost, your overhead, how much you're going to then, if you're in a group practice, how much you're going to pay the person that's overseeing the group and supervising, you know, because they get a cut. And then, so by the time the group practice you're working for gets a cut, and by the time you pay your overhead for your office fees and dues or whatever, and then dues for counseling or your fees and annual renewals, what's left for you, and can you live off that as a salary? And also considering that that can always ebb and flow, because counseling is very much a customer service based industry. It doesn't mean that there is constantly going to be your calendar's going to be filled up. It is making a name for yourself, getting out there, marketing yourself. And so I will be honest, I've always maintained a full-time job and done my private practice on the side. I have a lot of friends that work full-time in private practice, but I would like to notate a lot of them are coupled off and they have a significant other where they have a dual income household. That has not been my circumstance. And so I've always liked the comfort of having a full-time, knowing that I have a consistent paycheck that's coming, and then, having my private practice there. And I kind of call my practice, it's my baby. And so I just, I can nurture that to as many clients as I want, or keep it, as small as I desire. But those types of things are important to think, as you venture out, and also getting into, working with people. I know you'll hear mixed things of not working with friends because it can ruin the relationship. I've done both, and I've done both and had good experiences, and I've done, the same, and I've had tough experiences. But it's just taking it in stride as learning experiences, and it will grow you as a professional in the field, but also a professional as a business person, because you take on a new hat, not just, as a counselor, but as a business owner. And it's a totally different ballgame. So it's very exciting, and I wish you guys all the best and much success. And if you ever have any questions, if Gabe desires, he's welcome to provide my information, and you're welcome to reach out. And if you have questions or desire to take a tour of my solo practice, and just pick my brain, and it's totally fine. But just always paying it forward. And that's where types of things like these, where Gabe invites me, to just give back, because you will work hard and not everything you will be paid for. But if you're a good clinician, you'll stand kind of the test of time, and you will be successful in other ways other than monetarily. And that you'll learn as you grow in your practice, that's also very important. The integrity of your business, and the customer service, and just the people that you're helping. And that passion will continually be reinforced. So thank you for having me, and I wish you guys all the best, and happy graduation for those of you that are moving on into the field.
Well, thank you, Leah, again for joining us, and Jaguars again. We provide this for you. This is a resource for you, and as Leah mentioned, I'm happy to provide her information. That way, if you would like to connect with her, like I said, she's a local in the area, so she's definitely one who's well versed in San Antonio, and always happy to help, as she mentioned. So again, thank you for joining us. And as always, Jaguars, we're here at the May Center. We're here to help you, and feel free to continue looking at our resources that we put on our YouTube channel. So thank you again.